We may not ever know who threw the first brick at Stonewall, and in fact, there might not have been bricks there at all. But we're pretty sure that we know who threw the first punch. Internationally famous drag king and real-life lesbian superhero, Stormé DeLarverie. Welcome back to Yesterqueers, and happy Pride. My name's Amanda, and I'm a public historian of queer history. Stormé DeLarverie was born Viva Mae Thomas in New Orleans in 1920. She was never issued a birth certificate and wasn't sure what her exact birthday was, so she celebrated on Christmas Eve. Stormé was the daughter of a wealthy white man and a black woman who was a servant in that man's home. We do not know whether or not that relationship was consensual. As a result, Stormé had what she called an unsettled childhood, living as the product of two worlds but not fitting into either one and constantly moving among states and foster families. Stormé's unwillingness to give an inch to bullies started early, thanks to her maternal grandfather.
If the white kids were beating me up, the black kids were beating me, everybody was jumping on me. If it wasn't because of my father's money, it was because of being a Negro with a white face. Yeah. So he told me if I didn't stop running, I'd be running the rest of my life. And when I was 15, I stopped running, and I haven't run a day since.
She started singing with jazz bands as a teenager, taking the name Stormy from the Torch song Stormy Weather. She toured the US and Europe as a singer, but she also rode jumping horses for the Ringling Brothers Circus for a few years until she got injured. And she told friends about a stint in Chicago where she worked as a bodyguard for mobsters. But Stormé was in New York in 1943 when she met the love of her life in a Harlem nightclub, a dancer and trapeze artist named Diana. In true lesbian fashion, they moved in together shortly after meeting, and they remained together until Diana's death in the fall of 1970. As far as I can tell, Stormé didn't have any other long-term relationships, and she carried this photo of Diana in her wallet for the rest of her life. When Stormé and Diana met, Stormé was performing as a woman, but she wasn't really comfortable in the dresses and hair flowers that required. Taking inspiration from the drag queens that she worked with, Stormé decided that she wanted to start performing as a drag king. Diana was all in and actually bought Stormé her first suit. So in some ways, we have Diana to thank for the fact that Stormé DeLarverie became an internationally known drag king. She's best known for the 15-ish years that she performed as the MC of the Jewel Box Revue, North America's first racially integrated drag show. Stormé was the only cis woman in the company, and during shows, the audience was encouraged to guess who the one girl was. Stormé would reveal herself each night in a number called A Surprise with a Song, much to the delight and often confusion of the audience. Because I know it's going to come up in the comments, Stormé referred to herself as a butch lesbian and a drag king. She was quite clear throughout her life that she was a woman and not a trans man. According to Stormé, her original plan was just to observe what was happening at Stonewall, to make sure that all of her people were safe. But when a cop hit her as she was bending over to check on someone, she said simply, "I hit him back." Onlookers say that she actually fought like hell, escaping from the police multiple times before finally being handcuffed and hit over the head with a billy club. Eyewitness accounts say that she turned to all of the gawking bystanders with blood running down her face and yelled, "Why don't you do something?" That is said to be the moment that galvanized the crowd to action. When she was asked about that night in later interviews, Stormé said, "It was a rebellion, it was an uprising, it was a civil rights disobedience. It wasn't no damn riot." After Stonewall, Stormé stayed in New York for the rest of her life. She was chief of security for the Stonewall Veterans Association, and she worked as a bouncer at lesbian clubs like the Cubbyhole and Henrietta Hudson. But Stormé was also a sort of volunteer guardian angel to lesbians in Chelsea and the West Village. Stormé was tall, androgynous, and armed. She had a permit to carry a handgun, and she patrolled the streets looking for what she called ugliness, any sort of intolerance, abuse, or bullying directed at her baby girls. Stormé was an honest-to-God gay superhero, and she patrolled her corner of Manhattan for more than 3 decades, well into her 80s. In a 1999 interview, Stormé described herself as a human being who survived and who helped other people survive. Stormé's involvement in the first night of the Stonewall Uprising is a matter of ongoing debate. Many eyewitnesses identified Stormé, or a woman who looked like her, as being the person who threw the first punch at the police, and Stormé herself said that she was there and that she did it. But in his widely read 2010 book about Stonewall, David Carter said that Stormé wasn't there and that it must have been a different lesbian. His main reason is that some of the bystanders described the person who threw the punch as a white woman, and Stormé was black. But Stormé also had light skin and frequently dyed her hair blonde, so it would have been very easy for someone who only caught a few quick glimpses in the midst of the chaos to misidentify Stormé as a white woman. Interestingly, Christy Henderson Jenkins, who was very close to Stormé and Diana because they were her gay parents, also says that Stormé wasn't there. But her logic is that Diana was already sick in June of 1969, and Stormé would have gone straight home after her show to care for Diana. I'm inclined to believe Stormy's recollection of her own history over anyone else's, especially since she helped found the Stonewall Rebellion Veterans Association just 2 weeks later. But whether or not she threw a punch that night, Stormé was a crucial part of the community both before and after Stonewall. Stormé DeLarverie died of a heart attack on May 24th, 2014, at the age of 93. After her death, her personal archive was donated to the New York Public Library. That's it for today. As always, more information, including sources and further reading, is available in the usual place.